Okay. Hook that. Okay.
I'm first going to look at you in the impact position because it's the most important. Everything the ball does, how far it goes, how high it goes, how much it spins and curves, is a direct response to the laws of physics in motion at the brief moment of impact. On the left is Tiger hitting an iron. This is video I took at last year's US Open. On the right is Grant Wade hitting a driver. Grant was a PGA Tour player during the 90s and now is one of the top instructors of tour players. Grant's teaching partner is a good friend of mine, Joe Mayo, who lives in Las Vegas. Grant was considered by many as having one of the best and most fundamentally sound golf swings. At impact, they both have the majority of their weight on the left side. In fact, the average pro will have 85 to 90% of their weight on the left side at impact. I've drawn a red box from the center of their ankles to the top of their head, and you can see that the red line off their left foot is passing right through their belt buckle, showing how the center of their mass is right on top of their left foot. They both have extended arms through impact. Their elbows are close together and not separating. Having extended arms and weight forward allows them to control the low point of their arc of their swing. When hitting the iron, this fundamental allows the placement of the low point to be in front of the ball, so that they hit the ball first and then the ground, producing the maximum compression of the golf ball. These fundamentals also allows for the highest level of consistency in controlling the face angle and club path during impact, so that you in turn have the highest level of consistency in hitting whatever optimal ball flight you want.
Diane, I'm going to compare you to Grant Wade, and I have both of you stopped at the impact position, right when the ball is being hit by the club. And first, let's look at your weight distribution between the feet. I'm going to draw a red box to the top of your head to the center of your ankles on both of you. And the biggest difference here is that Grant has the majority of his weight on his front foot, his left foot, and you have more weight on your right foot than you do your front foot. So one of the things that every golfer needs to learn how to do is hit the ball before they hit the ground. And that means that you need to have the low point of your swing arc in front of the golf ball. If the low point of your arc is behind the golf ball, then you will hit the ground first. Well, let's put a line where the ball is. I'm going to frame advance it, and you will watch how the club hits the ground behind the ball. You can see that the ground is being hit right here. And so you hit the ground several inches behind the golf ball. Grant is going to hit the ground on the other side of the golf ball. So Grant is swinging down into the ball and hits the ground on the other side of that ball. And you're coming in and you hit the ground here. And so one of the things that controls the location of your low point is where the majority of your weight is. If the majority of your weight is on your right foot, then the low point will be back here. If the majority of your weight is on the front foot, then the low point will be in front of the ball. And so by learning how to get our weight on our left side before we hit the ball will help you hit the ball first. Now, what advantage is there to doing that? Whatever swing speed you create, you want every bit of that energy to be transferred directly to the golf ball. You don't want any disruption of the ground slowing the club down before the club arrives at the ball or hits the ball. So one of the things that we'll learn to do is we're going to readjust our setup and learn how to shift our weight to or get on our left side to get on that front foot. Now we're looking at the ninth position of the golf swing. The ninth position is when the right arm is parallel to the ground, particularly from the elbow to the wrist. When that forearm is parallel to the ground, that's our ninth position. And there are differences in your ninth position than Grant's, and those are the things that we worked on a little bit. You'll notice that the shaft of the club on Grant's ninth position is above the blue line. He has rehinged the club up in the air where his hands are, and your shaft is below the blue line. From the left arm, the left hand, it's in a straight line. There is no angle. You haven't rehinged your club. If I were to do that with Grant, he almost has a right angle here. And so Grant has rehinged the club up in the air off that left wrist. And so one of the things that you'll notice is that Grant, his left hand, his gloved hand, is underneath the right hand. And we can see your gloved hand above the right hand. And that is a critical difference and fundamental difference in why you don't have any distance. Once you learn how to use your hands properly, you're going to create more club head speed. The reason you can't rehinge is because of how you were holding the club in your left hand. That's one of the first things that I worked on. Now we're at the 10th position, at the final position of the swing. Just want to point out a couple of things. One, you can see how Grant finishes up on his left side. And you have most of your body, in fact almost the entire body, behind the arrow. You can see how Grant's back foot is on the tip of the toe and you're still kind of flat-footed. So that was the other thing that we worked on a little bit. During our first session, we spent a little time on putting, chipping, and full swing. So we didn't have as much time on the full swing to go further with this. But these are the two areas that I worked on. One was your grip and one was your finish. Let's look at some of the positions before impact that prevent you from having a better impact position and a better finishing position. Here we are at the beginning of the swing, and in the initial setup, I've drawn a red arrow from the center of the ankle up to the top. And you can see how Grant will start with a little bit more weight on his left foot than his right foot. The average pro will have 85 to 90% of their weight on their front foot at the moment of impact, at the moment of hitting the ball. They don't want to do anything that makes it difficult to get to the left side at impact. Now let's look at the backswing. As Grant goes back, you can see how he keeps his left side, his left shoulder, his left hip, his left knee. When I stop his swing, when the left arm is parallel to the ground, Grant still has that red arrow off his left foot going right up his left side. So he's rotating around a stable axis. A golf swing is a circle. A circle rotates around an axis, and Grant has the axis of his golf swing off of his left side. As you take it back, you lean to the right side. You're moving even further away from your left side. So it's going to be much more difficult for you to arrive at impact with more weight on your left side than your right side when you put so much on your right side in your backswing. So you're going to learn how to rotate around your left foot and not slide and lean to the right side. That does not give you power. That actually prevents you from having more power. Now when you get to the same three position where your left arm is parallel to the ground, you can see how Grant has hinged his club up in the air. He's at a right angle at that point, and you haven't quite hinged your wrist properly to get that right angle. The more angle you can put in your wrist in this position, the more swing speed, the more power you're going to have. Let's take that club back even further as Grant takes it to the top of the swing. And let's take yours to the top. So Grant has his club back here and you have your club here. That's one of the things that we worked on. On the right was after I had worked with your grip of the left hand so that you could hinge a little bit better. Fundamentals are not abstract concepts. They are real and they have a certain look to them. And if the look isn't there, then the fundamental isn't there. So I use and shape fundamentals by having you change the way your swing looks in certain key positions. And so the form of your swing has to be learned first. And once you learn the form and become comfortable with the form, the performance of the shot will improve. First form, and then the performance will follow. Let's look at your backswing as you go back here, and I stop the swing when your left arm is parallel, and I draw the shaft line. Now let's look at the new swing on the right. We did several different changes, and this is the first change, was learning how to hinge your wrist. And you can certainly see a big difference in the club here. It's going way back here, so you've really created a strong angle in your wrist there. And that's going to generate a lot more club head speed once we add a couple of other changes. We're going to add these changes in the proper sequence. This one change is very important. It was the first thing that we had to change. And we ended up making other changes also before the session was over with. We're building your swing a piece at a time, and we're building them in the right order. And you're going to be hitting the ball really well once all the pieces are put together. I can already tell that's going to happen very quickly for you. So you have to be patient in terms of don't evaluate whether or not the change is correct based on how the ball is performing. The ball isn't going to perform immediately every time the right way, just from the first change. But it'll definitely perform very quickly the right way once enough of these early pieces and the foundation principles and foundation fundamentals are put into play. Now let's look at the change we made in the finish of your swing. On the swing on the right now is when we worked on changing your grip. And look at that beautiful finish. That's pro finish right there. Now you're a work in progress, but you are demonstrating the super ability to remold your swing, and little by little it's going to become, you're really right on top of that foot. That's what we need to work on. That's two different golfers right there. That's excellent. Very, very good. This is a close-up of your grip before we made any changes. I want to point out a couple of things that are different. I'm going to show you the grips of 2 or 3 different pros, and so we can see their similarities. First, let's look at your left hand, the gloved hand. This crease between your thumb and forefinger, that crease, when you grip it, is pointing off to the side of your left shoulder. Tiger's crease is going to be pointing more to his right shoulder. We can't see it here because he is covering up his left thumb with his right hand. We can see your left thumb right here, and we cannot see Tiger's left thumb because his right thumb, the base muscle of that, is covering up. This section right here, you can see that his right hand is covering that up. His left thumb is sitting inside the lifeline of his right hand. And here is your left thumb, and here is your right thumb, and they're not on top of each other. And so that's one of the changes that we made. This here is Tom Watson, and you can see how his right hand is sitting on top of his left thumb. Here's Jasper Parnevik, same thing. You cannot see that left thumb. Anthony Kim, that right hand is right there, and Ben Hogan. So you can see that the thing that all the pros have in common is they have their the crease of their left hand, the crease of this thumb, where yours is pointing this way, theirs is going to be rotated and pointing more this way, and their right hand will be sitting on top of that thumb. The first change we made is I rotated your left hand around. Not only did I rotate it, I put it in the fingers so that the heel of your left hand could sit on top of the handle to give you the ability to hinge your wrist. You did not have the handle in the fingers of your left hand, you had it in the palm of your left hand. And so you did not have a fulcrum to leverage against. And so we need to get that in the left hand correctly. The second change I made, and I made it later in the day, later in the session, because after making the first change, you hinged better, but everything that you hit went low and left. And that's because of how the way you gripped it with your right hand. You'll notice that Tom Watson's forefinger of his right hand is pointing this way. Tiger's forefinger is pointing that way. Jasper Parnevic's forefinger is pointing this way. So you can see how each of those have that hand and that palm where it's almost like they're hitting the ball with the palm of their hand. That forefinger is right behind the golf ball, right behind the shaft. Your forefinger is pointing this way. You have your palm straight up in the air. So instead of having your palm and that forefinger pointing this way, you have it almost opposite angle. And so your forefinger is going this way. And so the second change, and what that meant was as you swung down at the golf ball, your right hand would rotate into a palm position, and it would cause the face of the club to rotate also. And when it arrived at the golf ball, that face of the club was aiming way to the left. And so once I changed your grip, you started hitting the ball straighter and higher. You only got a chance to swing maybe 10 balls with that change because we ran out of time. But we will continue to improve that.
Swing and pose. Don't worry about anything but the pose. Plant that picture in your mind. I want you to be able to see these videos. Oh man, that finish looks really good. Swing and pose. Hold it, beautiful.